from 2012 to 2019, we maybe even venture into 2020, I created a company that I loved working at. And I was so silly. Like, I never asked anybody around me, even though there was only 9 or 11 of us, right? Like,
Right.
where, like, what do you want when you come into this office? Like, I think that basketball hoop over there is cool. And, oh, you find it annoying because you can't work because I'm over there gaming out with the other sales guys. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider, on another Flip the Script episode. So if you're following along with the show this season, we've been doing Flip the Scripts, much like we did a season prior. The season prior, we did Flip the Scripts with internal people here at EPI, the executive team and some other middle managers that have been a part of our organization for a long time that for about 30 or 45 minutes, we're able to flip the script and ask me a bunch of questions. You guys all love that so much that we wanted to bring it back in our season this year. And we said, rather than go internal, let's go external. Let's look out into the advisor world. Let's look out into the SEPA community and choose the folks that have impacted me personally as an owner and our organization. So I've invited our friend Kyle in to come spend some time with us here on the Flip the Script episode. And before I give him the reins here, I'd like to welcome you to the show. Thank you for coming into Cleveland.
Well, Scott, it's great to be here, and I really appreciate the invitation because I remember back in May of 2017, sitting there in class for a week in Chicago, just 8 to 5, plowing through the material.
Is that when you became a CEO, 2017?
2017,
Wow. Yeah. How time flies, I guess.
It does, and how much it's all changed.
Well, and how much, honestly, you've changed and supported us. Because really, in 2017, you become a SEPA. I guess I didn't know it was that quick, because by 2020, I'm leaning into you as a EOS implementer to say, look, I've read Traction probably 20 times. Right, it's one of my favorite books, especially as a young entrepreneur. It was really something I could grasp. And as a SEPA and an implementer, you said, Scott, well, let me take you through the vision day. And at the time, to give the audience some background before I give you the reins, is we had reformed, and maybe set it for you if you think about it, I had reformed the entire leadership team coming out of COVID, 2021.
Right.
We have new core values that we had put up, so we were maybe a step ahead than maybe a traditional client that you might take on. But I was struggling with, how do I teach this relatively young executive team how to think and act more like owners, and give us a communication system that gave us the tools and the data to power everything forward. And I was telling the story to you, and I think similar family business owners too. We had a bond, and you said, well, let me come in and do a vision day. And that simple moment changed the trajectory for the next 5 years. And so welcome to the show, man, and it's yours. So have at it, my friend.
So first of all, I got to correct a little bit of language.
Okay.
So what we did together was a focus day, not a vision building day.
My bad.
No, that's quite all right. No, because you think about a process like EOS. And so for those of you, and I'm just going to give a quick, the elevator speech, if you will. So
yes, please.
EOS is just a set of simple, practical tools paired with a proven process that really helps leadership teams do 3 things. We call them vision, traction, and healthy. Vision is getting the leadership team on the same page of where they're going and a plan to get them there. Traction is bringing that vision down to the ground, instilling the discipline and accountability so you're always executing towards that vision. And healthy is helping them become more open, functional, cohesive, healthy leadership team. Because most of the time they're not. I think we can both speak from experience on that.
Exactly.
And then we find as goes the leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization. Everybody's on the same page of the vision. Everybody's executing on that vision, and you build a really great culture of people you enjoy spending time with. Now, it is perfectly, where a lot of people, when we start working with leadership teams, we actually take them the first day, as we do it through a series of session days. The first session day is a focus day. And this is the thing that always kind of throws people, because in a lot of ways what we're doing is strategic planning with an execution component that's so often missing. And kind of the secret too is that along the way you're building a healthy team. And so really where we start with is we actually start with traction. That is starting to build that discipline of execution in the team, because so often, and we've talked about this in the past, so often in an entrepreneurial organization, people are in the sales and marketing silo, they're in the operations silo, and their finance. And we were actually talking, I remember as I was preparing for today, I was thinking about, we were talking, he says, I was talking to a business owner last week, and you asked about, well, when are your weekly leadership meetings? What meetings? And that's oftentimes when I'm talking to leadership teams. So anyway.
Well, we didn't have that structure though.
Well, and that's
before we met you.
Really? Because
we didn't meet on a regular basis like me and you were talking about pre-show. That was ad hoc, man.
We didn't do it either in my family's business. So, but really, so where we start is on that execution piece, or that traction piece, really starting to build that discipline of execution, because that's one of the things that Chris really drives home, is the whole need for relentless execution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, that's, I think, where maybe I found, like, as a person that kind of utilizes both systems, if you will, to some extent, like the concept of relentless execution and traction, obviously very similar. If you read Dad's book, right, you could tell that he was certainly influenced by the works of Gino and the implementer community.
Spreads, the 90-day, the quarterly renewals that you all do and everything. So why don't you tell me about EPI's operating system? Because you've used a lot about EOS, but tell me about EPI's operating. Where do you see the similarities between the two, or what EOS tools have you used?
Yeah, so totally. So, and they've evolved since we first met and started to implement. So we love like the L10 meeting. Like we follow the L10 meeting. We do it every Monday. Sometimes we extend it by a half hour to make it 2, depending on kind of what we're working on. We love the people analyzer, right? And so for us in a growing company, a lot of people have heard on this show, we're going from 50 people to 100 people, right seats, all of that. All the people stuff really speaks to what we do. And like the people book that you guys just came out with also speaks to what we do. So that's big. People and culture have always been favorites of mine. We totally use a scorecard. Never had a scorecard, believe it or not. We're like a scorecard kind of company, track value and all of that stuff. We did scorecard, and that's become like a big part of who we are and what we do. And then I would say like those are the EOS buckets. And then we have this bleed of what my dad teaches and what Gino has taught, where like you said, like we have 90-day sprints, right? So we have 90-day sprints. We have 3 to 5 big rocks. I think you guys say you can have up to 7. We have a function of quarterly renewals, and I think our like meeting cadences and frameworks are very similar to what you guys teach too, and we blend it in. I think so EOS has allowed us to very much so have a system that gives us the right data to make great decisions and grow pretty rapidly by about 40% a year.
Nice.
While having the right, what I like to think, having the right people in the right seats, and when they're not, being able to have a great conversation about it and likely fit them into the seat that's missing, or create a role that we're like, man, that is the role. That's the role we actually needed, and move you kind of over there. It's a rarity that we have to like let someone completely go. I think that in a high growth company, I think if there's room for great people. Where Dad took it was the bringing in the value side. Right. So like for me, EOS has allowed me to have a very year-over-year successful company. We're retaining great people, attracting great people, making great decisions. We have a high employee satisfaction score. I think I really feel a grasp on my company. Then Dad comes in and says, okay, that's all good. Now I'm going to take all that and tell you how much value that just created for us. So I think you guys touch on all 4 C's, all the 4 intangible capitals. And then Dad brought in the personal financial side to embrace the holistic planning, which I think Gino's kind of doing now with like his EOS life stuff. Right.
Well, and that's one of the things I want to really talk to you about is what was it like back in the 2022 summit when Gino actually came in and gave his EOS life. So here you read Traction years ago. I think you even mentioned when you read it when you were running your landscaping company.
I did. It was a book that my dad gave me.
Yeah, and then now here you have the guy who created it on stage at the Exit Summit.
Dude, I'm telling you that if you talk to our executive team that has been with us a while, like a Josh Koza or Paige or Jocelyn, I was like a total huge fan, like where you see like Michael Jordan, I'm like in the front row and Michael Jordan came on. I am that like deeply of a fan. I was like, holy crap. And I would say like coming back, from the that was back from our 2-year pandemic stint,
that was the first one. Yeah, that was the first one.
So we have the first one after the pandemic. We get Gino there, and we get Gino there in part because you guys have had such an impact on what we do. But it was excellent. But I asked Gino, if you remember, not to speak about Traction,
right,
but to speak about this new EOS life and these 10 disciplines thing, which I think we were one of the first groups that had heard that new style of keynote. I think he gave it at your conference.
I think
and they gave it again at EPI.
Yeah, that was probably maybe the second or third time that he gave that keynote.
But it was, and that's when I knew, like, now we're cooking. You could see because he's an exited owner, at least in part.
Pretty much.
He started thinking about personal planning, and he started to investigate, like, again, his disciplines and this EOS life model where you could tell he kind of lacked that personal planning too.
Right.
The biggest lesson I think Gino actually taught me, though, wasn't necessarily a business lesson. He tells it in this speech. If you've heard this speech now, fast forward 3 or 4 years later, I don't know if he still gives it this way, but he said something to the tune of, this is what sticks with me. He goes, I was standing on a little stage in a ballroom after my wife gave me a surprise 40th birthday party. And she had different people, and they're all sitting around at round tables. And he's like, and I'm standing on stage. I'm like, Gino, you got to say a few words. And then she hands me the mic, and I looked, and he goes, I saw a table of friends. I saw a table of colleagues. I saw a table of partners. I saw a table of family. I saw a table of like extended friends. And he said, I struggled because I go, who am I going to be today? And in that moment, when I heard that at my own conference, I was struggling with that myself. Because when I showed up with you, Kyle, I was different than when I just showed up at the soccer game with my buddies. And not wildly different, right? It's not dramatically different.
Right.
But I wasn't, you guys talk about like being your authentic self, right? Like I just wasn't being me. And it was that EOS life speech where I saw that. And so when you asked me what was I thinking in 2022, it ended with like a very profound moment again where I was like, man, like I'm like at the time like 35 years old. And I was like, I don't want to say that on my 40th birthday, dude. Like I got all kinds of different networks too, right? I got my SEPAs, I got my teammates, I got my family. I just want to be me,
Right,
and some people are going to like it, I guess, and some people won't. But that was a profound moment for me, too, having Gino speak at the 2022 Exit Planning Summit, for sure.
Interesting, because, I don't want to take us off track about that.
It's your show, man. You can take it where you want.
No. I mean, what's interesting about that is about that time, what I was realizing that I was not being my true authentic self.
Yeah.
Because I had buckets and I had buckets of people in my life, and it was very much came from just, I think, probably how we were raised.
Sure. Yeah.
Business is business.
Yes.
Leave it at the door. Which is just ridiculous.
It's a common theme on this show,
and
or a common topic, and I think it's a common topic in our SEPA community, right? Where in the old days, perhaps our fathers said, well, business isn't personal. Like, leave the personal crap at the door, man. We can come in here and run a business. We got to kick ass. We got to grow the numbers. But I think what we're realizing, particularly as we get into the next generation of owners, that business is actually very personal. And actually kind of naturally, it's 80% of our wealth. So it's pretty personal.
It's very personal. Well, and where do we spend our time?
In my business.
And where do you spend most of your mental energy?
In my business.
In your business.
So it becomes pretty personal.
It is very personal.
And it affects multiple people, right? So it's like, coming, if you look a couple months ago, a few months ago at the Exit Planning Summit, like my family definitely knows when I come home that I was like, wow, that was a big week for Dad, So it is very personal. So yeah, I think to your point, but looking around, you have like different buckets of people, and I always remember that story from the summit.
Yeah.
Very
well, and I think that's one of the as you took through, you kind of went through these massive changes during COVID. You're coming out of it. You did focus state. You're starting to put together the operating system for EPI. You're using a lot of EOS. But as you're getting more and more success, do you find that your capacity to think differently or to have space to think about maybe some of the bigger strategic, all of a sudden now you can breathe more and think about the future?
Well, I think you guys would classify me as a visionary. And
You're a visionary.
Right?
Oh,
you know me well enough, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll just say you're probably never satisfied.
Yes.
It's probably never fast enough.
Right.
It's probably never good enough.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
I think you just described my morning. Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure.
Well, yeah, by 10 o'clock in the morning.
By 10 o'clock.
And I think it's real important this is something I didn't appreciate about visionaries, because in my family's business, my sister Gina is the visionary. And she would always say, it's never be good enough or fast enough for me. And I was thinking, well, we haven't even started and we've already failed.
Yeah.
That's not it.
Yeah.
Because you have consistently talked about how the team you have around you, you love them, you believe in them, you know they're going to get there. It will never be fast enough.
Yeah.
And it has no reflection on them whatsoever.
No, it really doesn't. But I think that when you ask me that question, I think about your clarity breaks, So I didn't even know. That was a new tool for me. I was like, what a simple concept. We should do these. But I found myself, as we started to fully embrace what you guys were teaching, that for a visionary like me, I was actually able to be a visionary. I was able to take some time to jot down ideas, look more long-term, and from an EPI standpoint, focus more on the value creation side of the business and not the X's and O's. And so, and today I think that EOS has been actually a pretty critical tool to decentralizing a business owner, because now I have a scorecard I could just look at. So I kind of know where the business is going.
Right.
I don't need to be in it with everybody. And so I actually think it's become kind of a cool decentralization tool as well.
Yeah. So going back to when those 2 years when Chris said, hey, give me 2 years, give me 2 years.
Yeah.
And he actually confided in me one time that you had knocked heads kind of frequently, there in the
pre-COVID
beginning.
Very much.
Yeah. Did it have anything to do with the fact that you were a visionary and he was maybe an integrator, but maybe you didn't have the language or the structure and how to think about that?
Yes, absolutely. If you think about, it's so wild. If you think about EPI of old, there was other than the value acceleration methodology that, if I'm truly being honest, we weren't really embracing wholeheartedly our own self. We had no structure, no communication system, no operating system. And so, yes, I think structure absolutely sparks creative ideas, great conversations, and execution of those ideas. And so, I think in part, I would, it'd be interesting. What do you think my dad is? Do you think he's more integrator or visionary? I think he's actually hard to tell.
I come from the lens that, he had the corporate career, then the middle market career. He was very, scorecard goals, very structure process. He was that consultant.
Yes.
So he probably has a little bit of an entrepreneurial bent, but I always see him more as the traditional guy. And that's really not fair to call him that because of what you all have accomplished.
I know, right?
And he needed some of that thinking anyway. But this is the thing that's always impressed me about EPI in the sense that, you had the benefit of his knowledge and what he learned, you've got to measure it to know if you're unsuccessful, you got to measure, And so, and then I look back at my own family's business because we didn't have any of this. We just came in, got the work out the door, took care of our people, went home and did it again the next day. And we built an $18 million printing company. Now, my sister, I left it 15 years ago. She now has to think about what the future of the company is going to look like. And she's had to create a leadership team to be able to do that. And, full confession, I'm their EOS implementer, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's I'm going to have you on another show.
Yeah, to come back 12 years later and do that. Have her on it too. So that would be a blast.
Oh, man.
But really thinking about, and of course, I have a little bit of visionary too, so my mind's going a million miles an hour, and I just lost my train of thought. So anyway, but
we were just talking about where my dad kind of lies.
Yeah, well, but this is one of the things going back to where I think so much of his success is because you had that natural balance
exactly
that was there, and he brought that I'll put corporate experience. Now, when I mean, it was very much needed to be able to create. Now, kind of the question I want to ask you too is, you went from, landscaping, hands in the dirt, doing some of those very kind of, you could feel it, you could touch it, you could smell it. And now all of a sudden you're running an education organization.
A wild ride.
What was the mindset? Like, how did you make that? And I'm talking about the mental adjustment from selling like a service to something that's kind of abstract.
Yeah, very abstract. It's like, obviously in our 20th anniversary of the Exit Planning Institute, we were talking about this at the summit as well, that what Pete and Rich created was something out of nothing, right? Like when I entered the landscaping industry, I was not unique. There were tons of different landscapers, right?
Absolutely.
So when you say abstract, I would totally agree, is that you can kind of mold it. So that was actually quite fascinating to me, right? Mm-hmm. As a visionary, as an entrepreneur, I came into what you would call that blue ocean strategy, where brand new, not a lot of competition, and we could mold it. But I could tell you, man, it was like super intimidating. And there was a bunch of stuff that wasn't working that worked for me before. You mentioned it in your printing company, right? We would roll up the sleeves, get into the shop at 5 o'clock in the morning, roll out of there by 6:30, either plant trees, mow lawns, plow snow, be done by the end of the day, go to the bar, go home, and go do it the next day.
And you could see what you actually did.
Well, then you'd leave
you'd drive
down that thing. Wow, we worked our ass off for this today, and the customer's standing there and looking at it, right? Or the property, we did a bunch of commercial stuff, so the property manager might be walking some customers around, residents of the the Polo Club here in Cleveland, right? And they're like, wow, look at this new pool landscape that we have, and that was satisfying. And then you got in, so to your point, it's like you get into a business that is, no one knows who you are. No one really know what you're doing, so you're kind of growing a profession. I'm with a bunch of highly educated people. Mm-hmm. My customers are highly educated people, and I dropped out of landscaping school. And on top of that, you kind of have a business that's much more professionalized.
Right.
And so I have to remove the jeans and polo shirt. And back then, if you remember, I was wearing a suit and tie to teach at SEPA.
I remember that. I remember that.
And inside of the classrooms. And it was just, at first it was really intimidating, and then it got even more intimidating when Dad said, hey, I need you to make a commitment and come in and run this company to get it to where we want to go. I was super reluctant, man. I was like, Dad, I like running Aspire Management, my dad's consulting company, because I was working directly with owners, so people that I really identified with.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, now I got to work with a bunch of professional advisors, and I don't know if I'm vibing, or I don't know if they are vibing with me.
Right.
Because people would ask, oh, I went to Harvard, or I just got my MBA. And
they always like to tell you they went to Harvard.
And they were like,
sorry to Harvard.
They were like, what? They were like, well, they were just like, well, where'd you go? And I was like, well, I got this really interesting thing. But they always were they were cool, because they were like, oh, you're an owner, and then we'd start having an owner conversation.
Well, you had that prestige, the prestige of prestige of the owner. Yeah, absolutely.
Of being this is my end user almost. I wonder what he thinks about it. But it was a little intimidating, no doubt.
So, all right. So let's get back to why we're actually here today, talking about how you run EPI. So I am really, one of the things and this is one of those things that you learn as you put the reps in as an implementer, and you really see how providing them, a structure and a process and a set of tools, you really start to see how it builds team health. And I know for you, that has been, especially coming out of COVID, that has been the number one thing you have really focused on is building a good, strong, healthy team.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, man.
Well, and there again, there's so many. I think in my notes to you, I talked about a beautiful mess, because you talk about being a family business, but there needs to be another circle there about friends. About the number of friends.
There's a lot of them in there.
So help me understand that in managing all those different relationships, how the EOS tools and how EPI's operating systems helped you kind of manage all those multiple layers.
Yeah, I think it gives us an objective framework. Whether it's the EOS stuff or the EPI stuff, I just feel that there's power in data, right? It's there, it's visible, it's talked about. It gives us a framework for regular communication. and then almost like regular performance reviews. And so I think it just enhanced everybody's communication and then made it like almost shorter, sweeter, and more deliberate, right? It weren't these like prolonged conversations. It was more regular, so it could be shorter and more deliberate.
Nice.
But nonetheless, to your point, like, yeah, there's a lot of friends sitting inside of VPI. It was like how a lot of us started our business, right? You just surrounded with stuff with people that you trust and loved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I would say way better communication and maybe a little bit more objective than just opinionated.
Right. One of the things I hear from all the teams I work with, and we talk about in the company too, is rollout. So we take, for the folks at home, we take, a leadership team through the first 3 days. Focus day, vision building day 1, vision building day 2, and at the end of vision building day 2, we talk about rollout. How are you going to roll these out to the next level of the team? And I'm really curious about, and for a lot of teams, they struggle with it. Sometimes they get stuck. Sometimes they kind of fall backwards because it's always the challenge of running the business, working this into running the business. So I'm curious, how do you keep your operating system really rolled out into the rest of the company, top to bottom, left to right, all around?
So it's the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer. Right. So one of the things we did right after going through your stuff and getting introduced to everything, we said it should be visible to everybody. And I don't know if you're supposed to do, I mean, obviously you could tell me, the Vision Traction Organizer we gave to all 50 employees.
Okay.
So we actually created one that was the Vision Traction Organizer, but it was like in a little brochure type thing, right? Like that you could open up. And on the inside, it was the VTO. And then on the back, it was all the professional development activities that you were doing. And then on the inside cover, it talked about like our core values and some more specific EPI stuff.
That's a great culture piece.
So it was kind of, so it was, it was a little bit of like what we liked, a little bit with value creator mentality, and then all of the VTOs in there. And then you could track, we're big, like one of our core values is purposeful growth.
Right.
So we give every employee a little bit of a professional development budget each year to go out and do stuff. And so we wanted to, write down all the professional development stuff you're doing this quarter, and we refresh it each quarter and hand out new ones. And so, what I loved about it too, man, back then we were still like a lot virtual. Now we're like 2 to 3 days in the office, but it gave somebody a piece that they would have to carry around, because if somebody asked you a question, you would be like, oh crap, I don't have to go digging for it in OneDrive.
Right.
I could just pop it open because it's in my briefcase.
Well, and so handing out copies, incredibly powerful, because how easy is it to forget,
any of those things.
For any of those things. And so that's so for everybody who's listening, the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer, is it's basically the 2-page strategic plan. Outlines your core values, your core focus, your core target, that 5 or 10 year BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal. Marketing strategy, which is your client profile, the 3-year picture, the 1-year plan, the rocks, and your issues. It condenses it all into a 2-page document. And every quarterly renewal, every 90 days, there's a state of the company where you revisit it, because it's very easy to forget that in the crush of business. So to know that they have a paper copy of it, thumbs up.
Well, you had like our marketing team like design it, right? So it was like a blend of all the kind of the two things that we believe in.
Yeah.
And to your point, when I hear you talk about it that way, and for our audience, and maybe for the business owners that aren't exposed to what me and Kyle are talking about, is that it brought a lot of alignment, right? It's like, you can and you just see it, right? You take it out every day when you take out your computer, right? Like you just see it. So you're always tied to the core values. You're always tied to the 3-year vision. And then you're always tied to what are we doing this quarter to eventually go achieve that 3-year vision.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot of companies being that deliberate with it, right?
That is what we would like all of our companies get to, and everybody kind of struggles with it, because fundamentally what you're doing is it's habits.
It is.
Putting in and we know how hard it is to put in individual habits.
Yeah.
Now try to do it across an organization.
Organizational habits.
And an organization that's growing like you all are.
Right.
Because where are you at now?
We're at like 50 people, 8,000 SEPAs. And when we met you, we were at like 11 people.
Yeah.
If you think about
11
it, dude,
people.
like maybe 9.
Yeah, 11 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like 2,000 SEPAs.
Yeah.
So immense growth, right?
Absolutely.
Like, so But again, I contributed to that alignment. Now, if I'm being truthful with you, because there's probably some of our EPI folks even paying attention, we don't do that anymore. I don't know why we got away from printing the VTO. Maybe because we got back into the office and now it hangs on the walls and every time you walk around, you embrace it.
It's there. Yeah.
Maybe it's because we've embraced like software, so you have like a digital dashboard.
It's present in other ways.
It is present in other ways.
And I would say, is it present when there's decision making?
Oh, definitely.
Like in your leadership teams.
Oh, definitely.
So,
Definitely.
Of course, coming from the printing industry, I think you should print it out. But
yeah, our printer probably loved us.
Exactly.
We're spending like 100 copies of this every quarter, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's funny, right?
But that's strictly self-serving on my part. But but here's the thing: is as long as you don't lose sight of it,
right?
And it's always there when you're making those decisions.
Well, yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's very present. And in the move of our new office, right, we moved from 6,000 square feet to 16,000. Wow. It has enabled us to use kind of cool, creative, and interactive walls, stuff that we didn't have before.
Oh, cool.
And so, like the purpose statement and your core values are hung up on this really cool wall that you literally have to walk past. Like you can't. But again, we do, but it's also very present in our quarterlies, right? And not only do we list the core values, but we have to provide, for example, of people living them within the last 90 days. And so when I started telling you the VTO story, I was like, we kind of stopped doing that about mid-year last year. And I don't know why per se, but I just think like we're just so aligned that it was just not maybe a tool that needed to evolve into something different. But nonetheless, it was super helpful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as long as it's present when decisions are being made, that's important. So whether it's digital or printed, as long as it's, because now if it doesn't start showing up, or people start, but here's the cool thing about it though, Scott, is I think because you and the leadership team have been so intentional of rolling it down.
Yeah.
If for some reason you all start slipping, I would venture to say some people are going to raise their hand and say, wait a minute, where's it at? Where's the plan? Why isn't it around? Because ideally that's what you want is if people aren't hearing about it and you're really being open and authentic as you all have tried so hard, people, on the front lines will be raising their hands like, wait a minute, where's that?
Well, I think we're veering off course here. I do think, a couple of our Flip the Script shows, the folks that we've had in have said, like, you have created like this value creator mindset that has taken you in kind of a different direction so that there's a sense of accountability, I guess, right? Where it could be our, a part-time office administrator or a director on the leadership team. We're all kind of accountable and we remind each other when we're moving off path. So I do think it would, if we veered totally away from the stuff on the VTO, they would definitely say something.
Oh, yeah.
But Kyle, let's take a quick break, right?
Sounds good,
come back and get into the kind of second segment of the show. So stick with us. We will be back in just a couple of minutes. Thanks.
Cornerstone Business Services are M&A advisors, bringing a highly successful, high-touch level of service of investment banking to the lower middle market. At Cornerstone, we don't just make deals. We craft personalized solutions with an expert team that has decades of experience in buy-side, sell-side valuation services. We understand the deeply emotional process of selling a founder or family-owned business, with first-time sellers who are likely embarking on what will become the largest financial transaction of their life. We're more than just investment bankers. Cornerstone is a trusted partner in helping business owners begin their next chapter. You only get one chance to sell your business. Cornerstone can help you finish strong.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the second edition of Christopher Snider's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snider presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snider's own experience as a successful business owner and as a CPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors. Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny, 11 actions an owner must take to rapidly grow value and unlock wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Exit is Now podcast. Hanging out with my friend Kyle, kind of walking through the last 5 years of our journey with EOS and how we've combined it with a few other things that we're doing. But we were just laughing as we came back from the break. I said, hey, we got about 15 or 20 minutes. And he's like, shoot, over prepare, I guess, right? He's like all excited to get in here. And we've just been jiving on great conversation. So I hope our listeners are loving it. And we're just going to toss it back over to Kyle and get back into it.
So I want to go, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, of course.
So I want to go a little bit, we talked in the first segment about how once you've kind of put the structure in place, you all have this rhythm of execution, it's created space for you to think about the future.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know you've got that conversation will be taking place in a lot of other places, other venues for you to be able to kind of share that. But I want to talk to you about, as an owner, when did it click about ownership? When did it click what it really meant to be an owner? And so we're kind of going off our operating system, and this is kind of selfish because I always struggle explaining this mindset to people.
Yeah, me too. I would say, again, profound year, right? 2020. And
Okay.
So I would say in 2020, when we started to embrace, I just say across the board, professionalized systems and ways of thinking, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to the comment that we made in the first segment, we would kind of show up to M&S Connection Landscaping, mow lawns, and it just was working, right? Yeah. We were growing, and in the end, one of the reasons I sold my company is that we had grown so rapidly that I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was like, oh crap, I've taken on too much and quality is going down. So I need a bigger strategic buyer to help me navigate some of these contracts before I lose them all. But then we bought EPI in 2012, and from 2012 to 2019, frankly, man, we were kind of doing the same thing. We had a great product, great customer base, member base, great people. And we're sitting around in 19 trying to figure out how to scale, and then pandemic happens. And then the whole thing happens where it flushed out relationships and ways of thinking, and not just products and services. But it was then where I said, oh, this is what it means to be an owner, right? It's organizing and leading people. It's getting into it's not sitting on the throne, but being a part of the person pulling the chariot. It's creating great customer relationships. And as you ventured in, and I started to gain more exposure in advisors like you, in systems like EOS or the value acceleration methodology, it was then where I was like, okay, this is what business ownership means. And then you could, to your point, earlier point, you kind of start to focus on what your highest and best use is. So I can be a business owner and focus here where I think I'm best at. But I've learned a lot about being a business owner over the last 5 years, no doubt.
Yeah. That is one of the things I always, because I'll be honest with you, when I was in my family's business, I'm not sure I quite had the ownership mindset or really understood, because we were so siloed in how we ran our organization. And my brother, sister, and I, we weren't always on the same page. Yeah. So I think, kind of really understand, and I don't know if we really understood what it meant to be owners ourselves, except for signing your name on the personal guarantee on the bank. All I know is that one day back, there's really funny, because one year was 2004, I think. All of a sudden, it made sense financially. And the next day I had 18% ownership in the company. So everything I tell people don't do, we did.
Yeah. Well, at least you come from experience, your own case.
Exactly. So, when we think about EPI's operating system and EOS's operating system, what are some of the things that you have incorporated in the EPI system, aside from the or maybe even specific about value creation, that isn't in EOS, or you didn't find in EOS, or maybe it wasn't fully fleshed out?
I would say, yeah. I would go back to where I think Dad extended it was they jive both in business, but I go to our three-legged stool approach is like what we didn't find in traction was personal financial planning.
Got it.
And what we didn't find up until the EOS Life stuff, right? So when I read Traction as a young entrepreneur, and when Dad was building out the value acceleration methodology, you didn't see a lot about personal planning.
Right.
But then you take the same EOS concepts and apply them to all of these in tools and apply them to these other facets of a business owner's life, the personal side and the financial side. Now it starts to kind of all jive together, and then you put a multiple to it. So not how much revenue and growth gain, but how my multiple grew too. And so I think when I look at both, and when the value acceleration methodology is about value and about holistic planning,
Right.
which embraces the EOS stuff and then takes on some elements. Again, a lot more aligned, I think, in 2025 than it was in 2012.
Oh, agreed. Agreed.
But that's where I think the difference perhaps is.
Well, I think what's interesting about the EOS Life, and Gino's talked about this, is that when he wrote Traction and when he was wanting to take EOS to the world, he did a focus group of his like top 7 or 8 clients. And he thought he would hear things like, more profit, all of that kind of what you would typically think in building a business. And what people were saying is like, I get to spend time with my family. I go to my kids' games, and I know that your priorities in the last couple of years have changed.
That has also changed.
With being married, with having kids now, and so how's your thinking now about how are you finding the tools, the structure, being able to balance even more?
Well, I think like the 10 disciplines that he has, excellent questions to ask and answer for yourself as a business owner. I think, again, it's going to be a lot more natural for somebody my age at 40 years old because I kind of naturally look for that, right? If you looked at the Gen X, which is slightly older than me, they're like 43 to 59. It's just like natural feel to go out and want to blend and balance their life. That's why I think if you look at some of the State of Owner Readiness Survey results, Gen Xers are actually taking them exit planning more so than ever before because they're kind of in that 43 to 50 where they might have highly active kids or they might be actually moving into empty nesters and they have some money and time and they're like, I've always wanted to blend and balance this. How do I make it happen? And for me, I think I always say that I feel really good on the business leg of the stool. I feel really good on the personal leg of the stool. I struggle at the personal financial side for sure. But I think that it has allowed me a clearer mind, and it has also allowed me, kind of to your earlier point, to help me decentralize myself from the business. Like I totally a Gino follower, man. Like I can't seem to take the whole month of August off, but I take the first 2 weeks off every year. And people that watch the show, this too. I'm a big RV guy.
Right.
So we take the RV and we quite literally go on a 13-night trip. We go down to Destin, Florida. We might go out to some islands off the coast of Georgia. We do a lot of Michigan trips, right? Because that's close for us up here in Cleveland, Ohio. But we do 13 days with the kids right before they go back to school, and that's our big family vacation. Nice. And without embracing the stuff that we've been talking about, there's no way I wasn't doing that in my landscaping company. I was totally an owner-operator. And hell, I wasn't doing that from 2012 to 2020 in EPI either. I was totally centralized. So the tools have helped me way better from a personal planning side as well.
And the tools are really great for that. But when people ask me about EOS, it's like, who's it built for? It's like, and they're thinking about industry or business size, employee count, and that doesn't matter. I always tell them it comes down to mindset.
Absolutely.
Ready to work on the business, ready to make decisions, ready for change. Are you open to that change? Are you willing to be honest? So I'm curious for you. You say the tools have allowed you, but you also bring it to a mindset.
Fair. Yeah. And I would totally agree, right? So I would also say read the books, get exposed to an implementer like you, but also go to your conference. So that's the other thing that we started doing is that the EOS Worldwide Conference has a variety of I guess, learning tracks, right? I could learn about marketing, I could learn about life planning, I could learn about operating. And I started bringing folks from the executive team to immerse ourselves in basic to deeper dive education around what it means to be an entrepreneur and business leader. And so my point being to your mindset question is, if you read like Walking to Destiny, I contributed to the second edition by doing the call to action for business owners.
Right.
And the first call to action is just educate yourself. And if you become more educated, your mindset will start to shift into this value creator mode, and into a mode that allows you to kind of unlock both successful and significant elements that thrust your company forward.
Yeah.
And so mindset, it just has absolutely allowed me and others that surround me to think differently, for sure.
Yeah. And I would say even go further into that mindset is your willingness to be vulnerable. Because I remember on our focus day, I think it was late, early afternoon, and you shared a story where Jesse, like we were talking, and said I thought we had a really great culture, and a year ago Jesse says, no, we don't.
Yeah, I know, man.
And for you to be able to actually take that feedback, which I'm sure hurt. And was
it's
hard
like in our
to hear.
world. Well, in our EPI world, he was like calling my baby ugly. Like, what do you mean? This is a great culture.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was we've talked about this on a couple other shows too, because
Sure.
I think it's so impactful. From 2012 to 2019, we maybe even venture into 2020. I created a company that I loved working at, and I was so silly. Like, I never asked anybody around me, even though there was only 9 or 11 of us, right? Like,
Right.
where. Like, what do you want when you come into this office? Like, I think that basketball hoop over there is cool. And, you find it annoying because you can't work because I'm over there gaming out with the other sales guys, right?
Right.
And so when we, again, met you and started to embrace different mindsets and frameworks, I flipped it, man. I just said, well, what company do we want to be a part of? It's not just the Snider show. I'm only just a sliver of who we are. And now at 50 people, I'm like one of 50. So it has to embrace some parts that I love, but it also has to embrace some stuff that you love and that we love. And there's going to be some stuff that I don't actually like all that much either. But the good has to outweigh the bad, right? And that's the beauty of, I think, of a healthy culture. It's not everything one way. But you were absolutely right. That was another profound moment where, man, you keep rating this culture best in class, and it's not. I'm like, what? Why didn't you tell me that years ago? And he's like, you weren't open to the feedback, man.
True.
But it has allowed me to embrace more constructive criticism, for sure.
And so just one more question to kind of
wrap it up.
You've done a lot of work on yourself.
Thank you.
I mean, you have. I mean, and I've seen,
have.
It's been really cool to see how EPI has grown from when I was sitting in class in May of 2017, the quality of the marketing, the quality of the branding, the professionalism of the organization, the programming and support. I mean, it has shown that you've been responsive to the community and that this is serious.
Yeah.
You see it as a way, and you definitely become a leader in the field. And there's always more work on yourself to be done. So I'm curious, what's the next thing that you have to work on for yourself?
I think to go, right, like what's constantly banging in my brain is how do we take the culture and the company from 50 to 100 people, from 8 or 10,000 SEPAs to 20, 25,000 SEPAs.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of back to your people stuff is like, I got to continue to be able to delegate and elevate. So I'm working in the best space on the stuff that not only that I love to do, but that I'm also good at, or maybe some of the stuff that I am okay doing that I really need to do for the organization. And I need to be able to decentralize myself from the business.
Right.
I think the biggest challenge for me is to make it truly about the community. Like this year at the summit, on our 10th anniversary of the Exit Planning Summit, I said, look, I want to give this conference to you guys.
Yeah.
So that you guys can power and make this what you want it to be and not have it just be a Scott thing or a Chris thing or an EPI executive thing. And that's important, I think, because if I'm uncomfortable, well, I guess I'm always going to be uncomfortable doing it. If I'm not willing to do that and embrace it, kind of like our culture conversation, and say, what do you guys want? And let me help vision and build what we want. Then it's not going to be something significant. It's not going to be something as impactful. And so I think the biggest challenge that's on my mind over the next several years is how do I continue to have empathy, have some grace, and be vulnerable and let go. I think it's the hardest thing for an owner, right? You got to know this. Letting go. It's like it's a pretty weird thing, man. It's a pretty weird thing.
Yeah, it's the interesting paradox. Your company is more valuable the more you let go.
I know, isn't that?
It is. So before we wrap up,
man.
I just want to add an audience note if I could. Please.
Sure, please.
So for everybody who's listening, you've heard terms like L10 and accountability chart and VTO and scorecard and rocks and all of these terms. And you're like, I have no idea what they're talking about. Here's the thing I love about EOS. And I think it's very much what is demonstrated how you and your team have embraced it and used it is all the intellectual property is out there. Yeah. One of the things that Gino did is he gave it to the world. So we have no secrets as implementers. There are no secrets here. So our entire library, eosworldwide.com, you can download the tools. I mean, there's a lot of companies. We figure for every company that's using Implementer, there's probably 10 more that are doing it on their own in some fashion or other. Mm-hmm. Some doing it awesome, some not doing it so great, anywhere in between. Now, of course, we would love to work with everybody, but that's not possible. But the cool thing about it is you can take this, you can try it out on your own and just see where the journey takes you.
Totally. I would totally recommend it too. If you're looking to like gain more clarity in life and business, I would just start by going to a conference, man. For me as an owner, I would just go to a conference. Well, then you'll get more exposure to who they are and what they can do.
Yeah, and absolutely. Yeah, go to the conference because it's in Kansas City, which is my hometown.
It is, dude. It is. Yeah. So we'll see you there.
All right.
Well, Kyle, I really appreciate you hanging out with us. And for everybody listening, we are back on September 3rd. So join us then. And in the meantime, subscribe, listen, and leave a review on all of our podcast platforms. Kyle, I really appreciate you spending some time, brother.
Scott, it's been a gift. Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys next time.
All right.